the Money with Secure Money. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is founder and president of Secure Money Advisors. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great, Cynthia. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
It's been too long. I've missed being with you in the studio.
I know.
When you've been so busy.
And there's been a lot going on. A lot going on. Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What's life like in the office for you right now?
Well, it's extremely busy. It's extremely busy. I mean, obviously, the type of work that we're doing, when markets are not cooperating the way that they are right now. I made a decision probably 15 years ago to focus more on safe money and helping people protect their retirement versus gambling and rolling the dice and taking risk with it. So, for those people out there that have been, experiencing quite a bit of losses in the market, it's, we're kind of a different philosophy, right? For those that really want to try to protect their money more than anything, because most of our clients are more worried about the return of their money rather than the return on their money. So we're very busy. A lot of phone calls coming in right now. A lot of people that are, very concerned about whether or not they're going to be able to retire or stay in retirement. The markets have been rough, and in every asset class. I mean, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about real estate, cryptocurrencies, bond markets, equity markets. It's a very tough environment right now.
Absolutely. So I'm sure the number one question that you're getting, Brian, is, am I going to be okay? Because nothing else matters. Am I going to be okay?
Yeah. Well, we talk about that in terms of probability of success. So, I had a lady that called the office the other day, and she has a 401k. She's getting ready to retire, and she's lost quite a bit of money in it. And she said, am I still going to be able to retire and get the amount of money that I need on a monthly basis? Because for most people, Cynthia, most investors today, they're not getting pensions. So they're going to need to rely on the retirement savings to generate income. So when they lose money in those retirement accounts, when they plan on using that for monthly income, it's very worrisome to them, because how long is it going to last? Are they going to run out of money? And so the question she asked was, how much more money could I afford to lose before I should pull this out of the market? And the real question isn't whether or not, the real question isn't how much more money can you lose. The better question is, what's the probability of success with the current loss that you've taken? Meaning, if I were to run a calculation, which we can do at Secure Money Advisors, and determine with the amount of money that you have left and the amount of income that you're going to need from that account for the rest of your life, what's the probability of success that it's going to last till age 95 or age 100? So we can run that calculation where we can determine that even with a market loss of, let's say, 25 or 30%, you may still have a 95% probability or a 100% probability that the plan will still work. So a lot of people look at their account balances going down right now, and the first thing they think is that I'm not going to be able to retire. And it's just not true. What that really tells me, if they're having those feelings or those thoughts, is that they don't have a real plan in place. And a written plan that can mathematically determine the probability of success wherever the account balance is what helps somebody sleep at night, right? That's you put your head on the pillow and go, look, I know I'm down 25%, but it's not going to impact me from being able to retire. Here's where people get a lot of anxiety. They call their advisor, they call the 401k company, and their advisor says, well, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. It's just a paper loss. The markets will come back. Remember, you're in it for the long haul. And, those are a bunch of sound bites and cookie cutter phrases that don't really solve any problems. And for most people that are getting ready to retire, they're not in it for the long haul anymore. They need their money right now. So this whole idea that, don't worry about it, it's just a paper loss and hang in there, you're in it for the long haul, makes no sense when it comes to retirement planning advice. And that has no room in our office, right? We really want to focus on the math to make sure that it can still work. And for some people, it might not work based on what they need. But they need to have that calculation run, and that's something we can do through our Right Track retirement system.
Brian, let's talk a little bit about that a little more in detail if we could. People are coming into the office, they're sitting with you for the first time. Do they already have an idea of what their budget is, what their spending plan should be, or do you help them determine that?
Yeah, some do, most don't.
Okay.
And that's something that we really help bring them through a process. So the Right Track retirement system was based around 5 key areas of retirement. Number one, most importantly, was income. And the reason why we built it around income was because income is the foundation to the plan. Without monthly income, or what we call mailbox money, right, there's no way to continue to maintain your lifestyle. So the number one priority for anybody is, making sure that you're going to have enough income for the rest of your life. And for most people, they are going to need their retirement accounts to do that. So number one is making sure they have enough income. Number two is when we pull money out of the retirement accounts, most people have never paid taxes on that money before. So when they withdraw it, they're going to have to pay taxes, and that means they're actually going to net a lesser amount. Number three is making sure they own the right investments. Number four is making sure if a health event were to take place that we have a plan for that. That does happen. We just got a call the other day that a client of ours just had a stroke out of the blue. We would have never guessed that with this individual. He's a very healthy individual. And number five is making sure that when the good Lord does decide to take you home, that there's a plan for your money, meaning it goes to your family members or your charities and not to the IRS. Okay. So when we sit down, because the income is the most important part of the planning process, we do have a cash flow worksheet that we use where we lay out all of their sources of income along with their monthly expenses. And we help them walk through the best practice of how to build out your monthly expenses. There's a way that you want to do it, and there's a way that you want to look at your expenses to get it as accurate as possible.
Okay, all right. Brian, how long does it take for you to design a plan for someone? Is it an hour process? Are we talking days? What does it look like?
It's a pretty lengthy process. I mean, the time we do the analysis of where they're currently at, we have a roadmap that we use where the first phase of meeting with a client really is just learning, understanding, and evaluating their goals, right? That's the first part of it. Then what we do is once we understand what the purpose of the money is, what their goals are, what they need it to do, then what we do is my team and I take all the information they bring, and then we run an analysis on that. Think of it almost like an X-ray or an MRI, right? We're able to look through and actually see what's happening. Okay. Once we can find out what's really going on, now what we can do is we can bring the client back and educate them on where they are and where they need to go. And sometimes it's just a matter of maybe changing a few things in the plan to make it a little bit better. Sometimes you need a complete overhaul of the plan. And then we give them turn-by-turn directions of actually how to implement it. And if they want, they can hire us, right? And if they hire us, my team and I will implement the plan. We do all the transferring and everything. We move the money. The client just gives us the thumbs up, says, yes, this is what we want to do, and we take care of the rest. And then my team helps with the implementation of it, and then throughout the years, we monitor everything for them. And that monitoring process happens on a daily basis. We're constantly monitoring, making sure that things are going in the right direction. And a lot of people just don't have somebody looking out after them, right? Really looking over their money. For most people, if you ask them who's looking over your money on a daily basis, you know, what they think their financial advisor is, but what they don't realize is their financial advisor's probably not looking at those accounts every single day, right? And if your financial advisor is actually the one that is investing your money for you, you should think again, because we employ very smart third-party firms that do that because they have teams of people that monitor our clients' accounts for us. So it's a very in-depth process. I would say that, you know, it's about a 2 to 3 appointment process. Sometimes a little bit shorter depending on how complicated it is. It could be even longer if it's a very complicated case. But on average, you could probably do it in a few hours, you know. So. Okay,
perfect. Well, Brian, I know you have a very special offer to present to the viewers at home today. Let's talk about what that is before we open up the phone lines.
Yeah, our Right Track retirement system. It really is a special system, folks, and it really was designed with you in mind. You know, most people will come to me and say, am I going to be able to retire? Am I going to have enough money for the rest of my life? Am I doing the right things with my money? Am I on the right track? Let me ask you, if you weren't on the right track, when would you want to know that? That's what the Right Track retirement system is all about. It's helping you understand whether or not you're doing the right things and you're moving in the right direction. We'll go over 5 key areas when you come in. We'll talk about your income. We'll show you how to plan for taxes. We'll show you the proper investment mix that you want in retirement. We'll also show you how to plan for a health event and make sure that when the good Lord decides to take you home, you got a good legacy plan to make sure that the money that you've earned over the course of your life goes to your charities and your family members and not to the IRS. That's the Right Track retirement system. For the next 10 callers who call in right now, we're going to give you away a complimentary, no obligation, Right Track retirement review where we will go over those 5 key areas. All you got to do is pick up the phone, 1-888-382-1298. Folks, don't procrastinate on this. This is not the time to kick the can down the road. This is not the time to keep your head in the sand. You really have to take action during times like this. Most people think, I really don't want to do anything because, I've lost money and I don't want to make changes. That's the worst thought process that you can have, because sometimes just making a few changes can make all the world of a difference. So again, for the next 10 callers, 1-888-382-1298. That's a Right Track Retirement Review.
Brian, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 888-382-1298. We know you have a lot of questions for Brian about how to plan your perfect retirement. He has the answers for you. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, I want to talk to Brian a little bit more in detail about market volatility and what can you do to protect yourself during uncertain times. Stay tuned.
See, everybody can tell you how to invest your money. There's not a lot of people out there and a lot of firms that can teach you how to use your money. Most people will also tell you that they're scared. And the reason they're scared is because they're afraid of running out of money.
The last thing you want to do is have a really good job into your 60s, retire, and be looking for work again in your late 70s.
The average person might say, well, a good portfolio would be a good mix of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. No, 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 no. A good portfolio is all designed around the 5 key areas: income, taxes, investments, healthcare, and legacy planning.
We're not just product pickers here. What we do best here is we build retirement plans.
9 out of 10 people, when they walk through the door, would ask us, we just want to know if we're on the right track. And I always say, if you're not on the right track, when would be a good time to know it? Probably now.
People, can actually see a vision once we start to really build out their plan.
This is about you. If you're not getting what you need, and you feel that when you walk out of the advisor's office, it's time to get a second opinion. And you can't get a second opinion from the person that gave you the first opinion. The difference at Secure Money Advisors, as a fiduciary firm, we help you manage the risk, build the income, and give you the retirement you dreamed of.
And welcome back to On the Money with Secure Money. My name is Cynthia DeFazio. I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is founder and president of Secure Money Advisors. Brian, I want to talk to you so much about market volatility, but you actually mentioned this in your book. Isn't it chapter 1?
Yeah, it is chapter 1. Matter of fact, my book, Right Track Your Retirement, everything we talk about here on this show is all in the Right Track Retirement book. It really is a simple guide for helping you plan for retirement, help you build income, and truly give you peace of mind. And in the first chapter, it's called Why Hasn't Anybody Told Me About This? And when I started in the business back in 1999, I got right from college, I get right into the financial industry, I go to work for a big brokerage firm in Pittsburgh, and I'm watching everybody lose money. And, it's the dot-com bubble crash, right? And then we got 2000, 2001, the markets continue to drop. And my first few years in the business, here I am, a young guy trying to find my way in this business. And, I remember answering the phones at this large brokerage firm, and a gentleman had called in. He was very upset because he had lost quite a bit of money, and he said that he'd like to get out of the market, he'd like to sell. Well, I was still new at that point, so I went to my manager, who had 25 years of experience in the business, and I said, listen, we've got a guy on the phone, his name's Sam, he wants to sell. What do I do? What do I tell the guy? He says, just get back on the phone and just let him know that everything's going to be all right. Let Sam know it's just a paper loss, to just hang in there, that he's in it for the long haul. And so, like a good employee, I went back to the phone and I said that exact words to Sam. And Sam actually changed my life, because he said to me, he said, Brian, I'm 75 years old. How much damn long haul do you think I got left? And I said, you know what? He's 100% right, because somebody at that point in their life should have never been taking the risk that he had been taking. And it's really easy to tell somebody else to take risk with their money, especially if you get paid a commission to do it, right? So the problem with our industry for a long time has been, it's been around a sales process, right? Selling products, selling stocks, selling mutual funds. That's not how a retirement plan is built. A retirement plan is really built around 3 buckets. It's called bank money, pension money, and growth money, or also what we call market money or risk money.
Okay.
And the reason why you have to look at retirement planning in 3 separate buckets is because each bucket, the money that you put in there has a purpose. For example, the bank money really represents emergency cash reserves, right? So if a situation comes up and you need, a few $1,000s, there's an easy place to go get it. Yes, we're not going to earn a whole lot of interest on this money, but it's still money that's liquid and available when we need it.
Sure.
We also have to take some of the money that we've accumulated over lifetimes and create a private pension with it. Most people don't realize that you can create a private pension for yourself, just like the good old days.
Wow.
My grandfather worked for Kirby. Remember Kirby vacuum cleaner?
Of course.
He worked for Kirby, retired from Kirby with a great pension.
Yeah.
So when he retired, my grandmother and him had a Social Security checks, and they also had a pension check. And when he died, they lost a Social Security check,
Right.
but my grandmother kept the pension check. Right, and any additional money they needed at that time, you didn't even need to take risk with it, because a lot of people just went down to the banks and they bought bank CDs, because bank CDs were paying 10 or 15% at that point in time.
Absolutely.
But in today's world, companies are not giving pensions anymore.
Yeah.
They're just not doing it. So we have to create one for ourselves, and we have the ability to do that with certain product designs in the marketplace today that are really good for retirees that will guarantee a stream of income for the rest of their life. Also, in those accounts, they earn some really good interest, right? And they don't have any potential loss for money. And then, of course, the third bucket is that we still need growth money, but just like Sam, I'm not in it for the long haul, right? That's what he said to me when he lost money. Well, Sam could have potentially been taking some risk if he had the 3 buckets, because the third bucket that he put at risk truly would have been longer term money, because his pension bucket would have taken care of the first 10 to 15 years of his retirement, which means that he would have had 10 to 15 years for that third bucket or that growth bucket to be able to grow and absorb market volatility. The biggest mistake people make, Cynthia, is they put 100% of their money in the market. They cross their fingers and they hope for the best. And hey, as long as the market is cooperating, which it did for a long time, last 12 years, nobody's got any problems.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to a lot of people about, a few years ago, taking money out of the market, protecting it, coming out while the market's at a high. People said, you're crazy. I'm making a lot of money, 25, 30%. We know that how this story ends. It ends this way all the time. It never stays that high.
Right.
But people get greedy, and they forget to do the most important thing, is that when they make gains, they should take some of those gains and actually protect them, so they're putting money in their pocket. So the first chapter, Why Hasn't Anybody Told Me About This, is about the 3-bucket approach. And truly, folks, the 3-bucket approach is how you truly build a retirement plan. Most people have investments, not a retirement plan.
Well, Brian, obviously I know the most important topic that we're going to talk about for the remainder of the show will be how to properly plan for retirement, but you have a very special offer to present to the viewers at home today. Let's revisit what that is before we go back to the phone lines.
Yeah, Cynthia, I built the Right Track Retirement System to help people get on the right track and do the right things. And folks, I really want you to take advantage of this, because it's complimentary. There's no obligation. And we're gonna go through 5 key areas of your retirement planning process when you come in. We're gonna talk about your income. We're gonna show you the best way to build out a cash flow model for yourself. Number 2, we'll talk about how to mitigate taxes and reduce the amount of taxes you pay when you start withdrawing money. We'll also show you the order in which you should withdraw money. Number 3 is we'll walk you through what's the best investment mix that you can have going into retirement and through retirement as time goes on. Also, number 4 is going to help you understand how to build a plan in case of a health event were to happen. Most people cannot afford any type of long-term care insurance these days, but if a health event were to happen, you better have a way to pay for it. And of course, number 5 is making sure when the good Lord takes you home, you have a good legacy strategy. So I want you to take advantage of our Right Track Retirement Review. It's complimentary, no obligation. So for the next 10 callers who call in right now, that's 1-888-382-1298, you can schedule a complimentary, no obligation Right Track Retirement Review with us today.
Brian, thank you so much. To the viewers at home, the phone number to call is on your screen. That number is 888-382-1298. Again, we realize you have a lot of questions for Brian about how to plan your perfect retirement. He has the answers for you. We're going to take a very short commercial break, but when we come back, I want to dive in a little bit further with Brian about how to understand what your risk tolerance really is. Are you taking too much risk? How do you know? How do you find out? We'll be right back momentarily.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go? And who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
And welcome back to On the Money with Secure Money. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and I'm joined today by Brian Quaranta. He is founder and president of Secure Money Advisors. Brian, a great show we're having today, talking, of course, about the importance of planning properly for retirement. And we talked about stock market volatility. In this segment, I want to dive in a little bit further about someone's risk tolerance, because we have a lot of questions that come in about that. So is someone's risk tolerance ever tied to their age? What are your thoughts on that?
There's some philosophy around age. I mean, there's rules called the rule of 100, where we take 100 minus your age. So if somebody's 60 years old, that would mean that they would have a 60-40 split, 60% equities, 40% bonds. Some people look at that as maybe 60% equities, 40% annuities. So there's all kinds of different things. But we use a strategy that's based around a technology called Riskalyze. And what Riskalyze does is quantify the risk around a number, right? So through a quizzing process, we can determine the client's risk level. And by running their current plan through this software, we can actually determine what their risk score is. So a lot of people will tell us that they're very conservative. And when we run their model, their current model, and I mean all their investments, through the software, what we find out is that they're actually only wanting to take this much risk, but they're actually taking this much risk, and it's very eye-opening for people. Okay. And a lot of times, what you look at, one of the metrics that we look at is something called a drawdown, and a drawdown is how far the portfolio could go down if the markets were to drop. And a lot of people have a drawdown of up to over 40%, which means they could lose a lot of money, and they're not in a position to be able to do that. Okay. So we would prefer to use a software, right, that quantifies it based on the investments themselves, and that helps us really determine the risk level.
Okay, and people are often surprised that they're actually taking way too much risk.
Way too much risk, yeah.
Why does that happen? What happens when someone believes that they're more conservative? I mean, how can a portfolio be so drastically different once you do the analyzation?
Yeah, well, a lot of times portfolios, most people are just using standard mutual funds within their, 401k, or they've got a standard mutual fund portfolio through, a brokerage firm, and nobody really has paid attention to the diversification of it, meaning they might have a lot of overlap in there. And so what happens is, the client is taking this much risk, but they're only getting this much return. And what the software does for us is it shows us that they're taking this much risk and only getting this much return. And that's all based on key metrics like standard deviation and beta and all kinds of stuff. stuff that they don't need to worry about, but we worry about it on our side. And what we're really trying to do is to flip that, right? To where the client is taking this much risk, but getting this much return. And that's what we call an efficient portfolio. So a lot of times just people have inefficient investment structures, meaning they've just got, poor performing mutual funds. Nobody's really taken the time to look at them. They've been in there for a while. Every time they go see their advisor, they just keep saying, we're doing good, nothing needs to change. And the reality is things do need to change because market conditions change and asset classes change. And so you need a very dynamic portfolio in the world that we live in now because the markets change more often today than they ever have before.
Sure, sure. Brian, what golden nugget of advice would you give someone in the viewing audience today, excuse me, who wants to be proactive in their retirement planning? What would you tell that person?
They really need to figure out what rate of return their portfolio needs to do. And there's 3 rates that we look at Secure Money Advisors. We look at the spend down rate, and I'll explain these in a minute. We look at the spend down rate, the preservation rate, and the legacy rate. Okay. And the spend down rate is very simple. What we want to do is we want to run a scenario where, let's say the client needed $1,000 a month out of their portfolio. We want to look at a scenario where we say, okay, if we have this much money and we take out $1,000 a month net of taxes, what rate of return do we need for that portfolio to spend down to 0 by the age of 95? Okay. Now, that might only be a 1.5 or 2% rate of return, but it's a very important interest rate to figure out, okay? Because that basically tells us we could probably just tuck the money under the mattress and be okay. The second rate is to figure out what the preservation rate is. Now, the preservation rate starts to differ for a lot of people depending on what they need. But the preservation rate is exactly what it sounds like. What is it going to take? What rate of return is it going to take to preserve the principal, right? So if I'm taking out $1,000 a month out of my retirement accounts and I want my balance to stay the same, what rate of return do I need to get there? And then the legacy rate is if I want to take that same amount of money out, what rate of return do I need if I want to take that money out and still have my money grow over time? Okay. Right? And now what we're doing is we're creating some parameters. We know in a worst case scenario, here's what we need, right, to get the money. And this is a best case scenario. And that starts to narrow down exactly what we start to need as far as rate of return. That also drives a decision around risk. But it's all in the Right Track Retirement System that we have. And that Right Track Retirement System truly is going to open your eyes up to some of these strategies and techniques. And folks, the strategies and techniques that you've been using during your accumulation years, during your working years, are not the same strategies and techniques that you use during your retirement years. So for the next 10 callers who call in right now, you're going to get a complimentary Right Track Retirement Review. Okay, there is no obligation when you come in. We will go over all of these things that Cynthia and I are talking about here today on the show. But again, for the next 10 callers, that's the Right Track Retirement Review. All you have to do is call 1-888-382-1298.
Brian, thank you so very much. To the viewers at home, most specifically, thank you for spending time with us today. The number to call is 888-382-1298. We know you have a lot of questions for Brian about how to plan your perfect retirement. He has the answers for you. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today with On the Money with Secure Money.